process video. I'm just quickly showing you the pieces of paper that I have left from the kit that I've been working with the last few times. So I've got the majority still left, but I've added this piece of paper from Creative Agenda by Caitlin Schaefer and Echo Park. So that was from a previous kit, so I'm pulling that piece in and just giving you a quick look at the kit that I'm using. And that was a piece from the November kit from L Studio, as well as that one as well. So that's what I'm working with today. I'm going to make a layout, and I pulled that blue navy piece in because my son has got a navy shirt on and none of the other colours had any navy in it, so just thought I'd pull that in and give that a bit of a pop. Okay, so here I am just looking through the different pieces of paper and trying to work out where I'm going to go with the layout and what sort of patterns I'm going to put together, and yeah, just trying to work something out. So this layout was very frustrating. It was one of those times where nothing seemed to come together and nothing worked for me. So I thought that it would be good for you to see that, you know, sometimes scrapbooking is frustrating. Sometimes layouts don't come together the way that you envision them in your head, and sometimes, depending on what's happening, you know, they just don't work. So this was pretty much straight after work, and I probably shouldn't have been scrapbooking. So for me, you know, scrapbooking is something I love to do when I'm relaxed, and I probably work better doing it on the weekend rather than, you know, straight from work. But, you know, I was home a bit earlier, the sun was out, you know, had good light in my room, and I decided to scrapbook. So in the end, you know, I do like the layout that I made, but you will see through this process video the struggle that I went through to get the end result. And there were many times where I was ready to throw it in the bin and ready to call it quits, but, you know, I kept going. So I'll stop talking about that and I'll tell you what I'm doing. So I've just grabbed a stencil, and that's from a shop here called Typo, and they were like about 10 different stencils in a pack. And I'm using my distress stain, and I'm just adding some blue to the background and just moving that around to see where I might like to add a little bit more or less. So the blue wasn't really the colour blue that I wanted to use. So I've pulled out some, just grab the bottle, some Tattered Angels chalkboard mist, and I decided that I would spray that. So that's a Cornflower Days colour, and so I've sprayed that, and I'm just wiping the stencil down and I'm moving it over again, and I'm adding a little bit more. And so the stenciling looks fine. It all, you know, worked good, but I just couldn't make it work together with the photo that I had picked and the papers. So they were just the wrong colour blues. They just weren't working for me. So I've just cleaned up my mess a bit, and I'm adding, heat gunning it, I should say, so dry it up a little bit, and here I go with the paper selections again. So I don't really like the background as is, even though it looks fine here now on screen, but it, like I said, it wasn't really going with the papers that I wanted, and I wanted to be able to use papers from these two different hip kits, and so therefore I wanted it to be, you know, a paper heavy layout, but I just couldn't make it work. So I'm thinking that I would like to use some colours that are more masculine. There weren't that many in the kit, so I don't know if that was part of the problem. I don't know. But as you can see, I fiddle around, and I quite like the stripe on the bottom, but I don't necessarily like the stripe at the top. And so it's just lots of putting on and taking off and just trying to make something work. So this one ended up taking me nearly an hour and a half to complete, so that's a long time for a layout. that's frustrating. It's okay if it's a layout that I've really enjoyed making, but it's a long time to spend on a layout that I'm finding really frustrating. So here I go now, and I pull out a sheet of white cardstock, and I decide that I'm ditching the idea of that triangle template, and I'm just going to go with the white cardstock. So I quite like this blue stripe that I've got there, and I want to use that, and I like the Amy Tangerine grey pattern in the back, and I think I might like to add a little bit more of that aqua that's on the bottom that was the branding strip, but I'm not sure. So, and I was just checking, it didn't look like I had cut it straight, so I was just double checking, and it was cut straight. It was just my eye couldn't quite see. But here I am, I'm thinking, okay, don't know that that mat's working for me. I'm going to try this mat on this little piece of paper left from the Amy Tangerine collection, and I quite like that, and brings in a little bit more colour. So I've got a little bit of grey popping out underneath with the cameras, the grey and white camera, and then a few more colours showing out. So at this point in time, I'm thinking the white looks just bare, the background underneath, and I'm trying to work out what I can put there to give it a little bit more colour without taking away from the design. And I find this piece of paper as well. So this is all the stuff, like I said before, from the hip kits, and I quite liked the look of what's going on now. So I was happy to proceed with that, and commit to sticking these photo mats together at least. And once again, I haven't put the photo on straight. I've got the papers on a little bit of a diagonal, and I quite like that. So I'm now just trimming some of the excess paper out, because a lot of it's going to be tucked underneath this grey and white piece in the middle anyway, so it's no point in wasting that bit from the middle, because I can actually use that as a photo mat. So here I am, I'm wanting that aqua flower piece to work, but I'm not liking it there. So I thought maybe for a second, if I turned the page around, I would like it a bit better, but in the end I decide that I'm not going to use that, and I'm just going to get rid of it. So I have another little piece that I'm trying to decide whether I want to use, and we will continue on like that for a little bit, taking things off, putting them down, changing them around, and until I quite like that one. So I've decided that I'm going to commit to that, and I'm going to stick all of that together. So just lining it up on my craft mat to make sure that it's straight, and takes me a bit, but I get there, and just pulling out the ruler just to make sure, and it's straight. So now I can stick that on, and I do leave a little bit of a border around the actually I haven't stuck it to the white piece yet, so I'm actually just piecing it all together. Then I trim a little bit off one of the sides so that I can have a white border around the whole layout. So here I go, just trimming a little bit off the side, and then I've got a tiny little border around the edges. So committing to sticking that down, and I think this could be where my ATG died. No, it's going okay for now. Right, so I've got to this stage and I don't know what to do, and I'm looking and thinking maybe I'll tuck some more paper under, but I don't like the look of the paper. Pull out some branding strips, but I don't like them. And I've decided to look at some of these Dear Lizzie thickers, but I don't really like the look of the gold against the paper, and basically I'm being indecisive. I really am not enjoying this at all. So I've got a piece of plastic there. It's just one of the pieces of plastic that the die cut sheets are often kept in, and so I've decided that I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the page, and I mixed it up. My daughter was running to get me my little water bottle, and I just tried to do it with the chalkboard mist, but it was the wrong blue, so I wiped it all off and then just used the little baby wipe to add a little bit of blue to the page. And so at this point I have laid down a little bit of India ink. So it's a little bit of Dr. Phil Martin's Bombay Yellow Ochre Indian ink, and I've just laid that on that bit of plastic and flicked a little bit of around, and then I get my water bottle and give it a bit of a spray and add some yellow to the page. So you can see those two larger areas where I tried to do it under the photo mat. So I did it in a place where if I didn't really like it, you're not going to see much of it poking out. So I just do that a few times, spray it with a little bit of water and pat that plastic down, and then use the paper towel to dab off the excess. And when it dries, you can't actually really see that it's on there. It actually went to a little bit of a sepia colour. And so I'm just adding a little bit of the chalkboard mist again. No, actually it was a little bit of, what's it called? Tim Holtz Adirondack alcohol ink. So I didn't have any blue, navy blue that really suited, but I did have it in the alcohol ink. So I just used that like I do with the mist, with spraying and using the packaging. So here I am, I'm thinking that it needs a little bit more texture, so I'm using a Kaisercraft background stamp, and it's a grid design. So I've used a Prima chalk ink for that one, and I'm just had added a little bit to the background. So I've also got these rub-ons, and they were in a Heidi swap. I think it was for her daily planner or something that I bought one time but didn't use it, so I decided that I would use some of these rub-ons. So Sandy, who is Oh Snap Gonzo on YouTube, she used them one time for a layout and I really liked that, so I just decided that I would do the same and just add a little bit of navy blue to the page and a little bit of texture, so it didn't really matter if they didn't all work. So here I've decided to pull out some stamps, and I think these were a Technique Tuesday stamp, and I'm just, they're brand new, I haven't used them, so I tested them out on that bit of paper, and here I go, and I stamp across the top. So it says Everyday Life, and you know, I do it and then think, oh, that doesn't really look very good. So I'm feeling a little bit disheartened at this point in time, and I'm wondering whether I should just quit, throw the whole thing out, or whether I should just go. But you know, I like a challenge, and you know, I'm not someone who is just going to give up very easily, so I decide that I'm going to persevere and I do some more stamping. So this time I've stamped Love You along the bottom, and that the photo will sit right there. So you know, do I really like it? Can't say I love it. Has it worked? I don't know. So, but I'm still persevering. So I've pulled out those thickers again, and you saw they didn't work. So now I've just got the navy blue, and I'm rubbing it all around the edge of the layout and the paper, and putting a little bit more ink to it and grunging it up, and I'm starting to have a little bit more hope in the layout. So I've just gone and grabbed this, it's like a twine, I think it's like a hemp cord, so it's sort of hairy and rough in texture, so I decide that I'm going to add a little bit of that to the page, and that might give a little bit of texture to it, a little bit more added interest, and fill up some of those black gaps. And so I've stretched that out, and I really liked the look of it laying across. So I've got like two thicknesses of the hemp cord, and I quite like the look of that. So I've decided that I'm going to pop up the photo on a little bit of foam tape. So I just had this foam tape laying around, not sure where it came from. I don't really like it, but you know, I'm going to use it until it's gone, and you know, not buy that type again. But I've just popped the twine underneath, and wanting to see whether I want to put some in that top right hand corner as well, and I think it needs a little bit, just not a lot. So I'm happy with how that looks at the moment, and I turned it over and put a little bit of washi tape on the back to stop the fraying of those little bits of string, and just to keep them in position whilst the glue's drying. So I've just propped up that little corner a little bit more. It was sagging down a little bit. So I'm looking at it thinking, okay, I'm liking it. but it needs to have a few more little rub-ons, so I'm just adding a few more rub-ons to the page in various spots to try and bring that blue throughout the whole page. And what am I doing? Still the rub-ons, and they kept sticking to my fingers. So I show you at the end, them all stuck to my fingers. You might even be able to get a glimpse of it. So when I was holding them, they stuck, and man, they were hard to get off. They stuck like crazy. So I'm just using a little bit of a Prima stamp now. It's like a little typewriter font, and I'm just putting a little bit of grey throughout the page. Actually, I think it's like spots and splatters, so just adding a little bit of grey throughout the page. And I just trying to decide what kind of title I'm going to write. And I was going to write like My Son, but I decided that I would write We Love You, Isaac. So not very original title, but hey, you know, I've persevered this far and I've got a title, so that is good. And I actually journaled again, so that is awesome for me to actually add some journaling to a page. So I'm just committing here to the word there, Isaac, and they were letters that came in the hip kit as well, and they're black with a sparkly glitter through it. So a black sparkly glitter, so they're really nice. And I'm just using these L Studio letters in grey, and I'm going to spell out We Love You. So I purposely made the Isaac not very straight, and some of the letters are a bit higgledy-piggledy, and I'm okay with that. So just spelling that out. I find these letters hard to get off sometimes, and I'm not good using tweezers and things. So I find when I take them off, the little holes always, the sticky bit stays, so I end up having to pull out my craft knife and just poke it out. So here I am, I'm just doing a few lines for the journaling, and I think I actually turn the camera off. Yep, there you go, and do that so that I don't stick my head in the way. And I've written the journaling, and it must be getting towards the end, and I'm deciding that it needs a little bit more yellow, so I just pull out some acrylic paint. So it was called Citrus Yellow from Semco, just a cheapy paint, and I have diluted it down with a little bit of water and then just stripped it all over the page. And then I just grabbed a little bit of paper towel and wiped up the excess liquid, and the yellow took to the page really well. So now it's got a little bit of yellow in there, and I quite like that. And I'm adding my ink splatters, which mean I am just about done. And this layout there, I'm showing you my fingers there, and I'm giving the thumbs up that yay, I'm happy with it, and it's just about finished. Well, it is finished. So layout that I persevered with and I'm happy with in the end, and I felt like giving up many times but didn't. So you know, when you do a layout and it feels like you know, it's more of a disaster than it is a success, sometimes it just means persevering, keep trying, keep adding something else, keep layering upon layering upon layering, and it will either turn the corner to be a wonderful, delightful page, or it's a hot mess. And either way, you've tried your best, and you know, you've done a layout, and hopefully it will have turned the corner and you'll really like it. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!